Italy's Prime Minister is stepping down. This comes after weeks of political wrangling as the government coalition fell apart, unable to agree on key policies. As Giuseppe Conte announced his resignation, he laid a blistering attack on the Interior Minister, who also serves as his deputy premier.
Interrompere qui questa esperienza di governo.
Conte accused Matteo Salvini of sinking the ruling coalition and putting the economy at risk for his own political gain. The Interior Minister has dismissed the coalition as unworkable and called for snap elections, despite the last elections being held just 18 months ago. Discussions will now begin on forming a new coalition, and if no decision is reached there by the president, Parliament would have to be dissolved. For analysis on the current political crisis in Italy, let's bring in Oliver Schmidtke. Oliver is the director of the Center for Global Studies and a professor of political science at the University of Victoria. And Oliver joins me now from Victoria. Oliver, let's talk first of all, 18 months since the last election. What is Matteo Salvini's calculation here?
Matteo Salvini embarked on a gamble that he thought he couldn't lose because his polling numbers have been surging over the past couple of months. He now sits at 38% in the polls. So he thought by triggering an election, calling a vote of no confidence, he could easily win an election and form a right-wing government under the guidance and the control of the right-wing Lega. So in a way, he has miscalculated, hasn't gone as smoothly as he thought, but really this step was driven by power politics and the desire to put the Lega in a place that he thinks they should be leading, but because at the moment the Five-Star Movement has more members of parliament and the Lega is in a coalition government. So he thought this would be the right time to launch an attack on his coalition partner and put the Lega into government.
Okay, why is he so popular? What's driving the 17% jump to 38%?
He has been very active over the past couple of months, basically being in continuous electoral mode, running campaigns, going to the beaches, and trying to portray himself as the natural leader of Italians. And you have to know that Italy has endured 10, 15 years of a pretty sluggish economy, of austerity measures imposed on the country partly by the European Union, and then the unresolved refugee crisis. So there's a great degree of frustration in the country. And he has been able, with his staunch anti-immigrant nationalist approach, been able to, in a way, give this growing frustration a voice.
Okay, so he has often said, I don't want an Italy from Macron, meaning the president of France. I don't want an Italy for the chancellor of Germany, Merkel, but I want it to be Italians first. What does he mean by that, or do we know?
He clearly borrows directly from Trump's playbook, calling it Italy first. And what he wants is to be able to spend as much as, he desires and not be bound by the European Union, the central bank's rules about caps on spending. So he said we have to do something about the economy and we shouldn't be controlled, as he puts it, by foreign leaders or the European Union for this matter. So it is, it plays into the sovereigntist, nativist discourse, saying it is always the outside that has caused the crisis, be it the European Union, being it refugees, and we need to basically close the borders and determine our own fate. So very much a kind of a populist nationalist discourse that has, in a way, found resonance in the contemporary population in Italy.
Oliver, he's always kissing his rosary. What is that about? Is he a religious man, or is this a political, political kind of useful technique?
He was scolded today in the talk in the speech that the Prime Minister gave about this, of mixing politics and religion. And it is very odd in a way that he does this. But in a way, Salvini is a very clever politician. He does everything that could get him more support and votes. And he has played, indeed, with these religious symbols. Given that Italy is a 95% Catholic country, he probably considers this to be a good move. Even today, during the speech, he would, in a way, get out the rosary and kiss it in front of the camera. So I think it is a very deliberate and calculated move to win over religious voters.
Yes, he's always talking about growing Italy by getting Italian women to have more children. Pro-life, he has indicated he wants to grow life, grow the economy. How socially conservative is he?
You have to know that Italy has one of the lowest birth rates in Europe or in the Western world, for this matter. So it is a real concern. And I think the Lega as a party and Salvini himself, they have moved quite considerably to the right over the last couple of years. And now the Lega has positioned itself on the very far right, socially, economically, and in a way found a new place. You have to know the Lega started off as a kind of a secessionist, separatist, Northern League. Now they have morphed into this role of a nationalist opposition with very conservative values and a very strong nationalist agenda.
Yeah, but how do you force women to have more children, right?
You can incentivize them. If you look at other populist governments, think about Poland, they just give incentives in terms of money, tax credits and so forth. So I'm not entirely sure, but this is part of his anti-immigrant rhetoric, Salvini's, to say we should increase the number of kids being born here instead of bringing people in from outside. So it plays into this nativist ideology that the Lega has been promoting.
Yeah, it's interesting. I wonder what the Pope would think of his use of the rosary in the Roman Catholic religion, at the same time arresting captains of humanitarian boats off the shores of Italy with migrants on them.
And the Pope has indeed spoken out against the policy and asked, the Italian government to show more compassion when it comes to these poor souls in the Mediterranean Sea. And clearly is very aggressive when it comes to rescuing or allowing even rescue ships to go out there. And you could indeed, as you did, question with respect to the religious fundamental ethics, how this is compatible. But as we know, populist leaders are not known for a coherent agenda. They do everything to win votes. And I think that is one other element of this.
All right. Oliver Schmidtka, director of the Center for Global Studies and a professor of political science and history at the University of Victoria. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thanks, Carol.